Welcome, it's Michael Murray with Benzinga. I'm joined here today by Martin Shen, the CEO of FingerMotion. Martin, it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much, Michael, for having me.
You've been with us before, but give our viewers a quick overview of what you do with the company, just for anybody who wasn't able to join us the first time.
Absolutely. FingerMotion, we are in essence a data company. So what we do, first and foremost, is we are payment processors for the Chinese mobile phone customers for China Mobile and China Unicom. So we process their payments, their bill payments in essence. We also have an SMS division, which sells SMS or text messaging to our corporate partners when they look to send out text messages to their corporate customers. We also have an RCS platform, which is close to launching. What that involves really is utilizing the 5G infrastructure in China to send out really marketing messages and all that as well. We have our new device protection plan, which we're just launching now, which in essence is a bit like Apple Care, but in China. And so we're excited to see where that takes us. But ultimately, we are a data company. So we're able to procure data from the different telco customers, able to augment some of that information with our algorithms, and then push that back out to different customers, be it in insurtech or financial services. So those are really our core businesses here at FingerMotion.
Terrific. Okay, and tell us about your top-up business. It seems like this is your bread and butter and really makes up what you guys do.
Yeah. So the top-up business really is that payment processing business that I mentioned. So what typically happens in the Chinese market is that if you're a phone consumer and you need to pay your bill or in essence top up your account, you would go to an e-commerce website like Alibaba or JD.com. And the way I kind of equate it over here in North America is that you would go to Amazon to pay your Verizon bill. And typically, in this instance, the Amazons of China will give you a rebate. And so it makes sense for you to do that. And what we do is we act as that intermediary. So when that consumer goes to that e-commerce website and wants to pay their phone bill and top up their account, we act as the payment processor. And that connects that e-commerce website and that phone consumer to their telco and make sure that their accounts are paid up. And then, of course, the telcos are happy because they're getting paid as well. So our platform has proven to be very robust and very efficient with very few failures and very few drop-offs. So the telcos are obviously quite happy with our service.
Fantastic. Now, tell us about FNGR's new device protection plan. You announced this last year. How has it gone so far? Any updates there?
Yeah, I mean, the device protection plan really, like I mentioned, is Apple Care. And it hasn't really had any cohesive format in China. So what we've been able to do is we've been able to bring in probably one of the largest phone device protection plan underwriters in the world. They are a New York Stock Exchange listed company that has been knocking on the door of the Chinese market for the better part of a decade. And we've been able to bring them in and pair them up with these mobile companies that we're very close with, China Mobile and China Unicom. And the idea is to offer device protection to the Chinese market. Not just obviously screen protection, but the full device protection, even device upgrades. And what's interesting about the plan that we put together is that these phone companies, China Mobile and China Unicom, have built the cost and the premiums of these device protection plans into their phone plans as well. So we're all familiar with, let's say, the $40 phone plan and all that. What they've done is they built this device protection plan into these phone plans. And so it may prove to be a bit of a revenue in perpetuity for us as these phone consumers upgrade to their 5G phones over the next few years.
Excellent. Now, some investors are hesitant to back companies doing business in China due to the unpredictable regulatory environment. It's widely known, especially in this space. What's that environment look like today? Are these fears founded?
It's a great question. I think that whenever you're investing outside of a jurisdiction that you're not familiar with, it's always prudent to study those jurisdictions. I mean, we're all used to obviously investing in the U.S., but whenever you invest, let's say in Europe or South America or certainly China, it's a good idea to obviously study them. I think there's a couple of things that have come to fruition, certainly within, let's say, the last year or so, that have kind of improved the regime that's happening in China. one of which is the new open discussions, reopening of the discussions between the SEC, the PCAOB, which is the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board, and the Chinese government. And really what that means is there's more cooperation now. Perhaps in the previous administration that existed, that maybe this cooperation wasn't there. And having this reopen really just makes it much easier and certainly more transparent for companies that operate within China to be fully reporting and fully disclosing the information that they need to, let's say, the U.S. investing public. And secondly, obviously we know the zero COVID policy in China. And their recent attempts to open up, they seem to be listening to their citizens in terms of what they want. And I think that that's an important step by the regime as well. Now, they may not have done it correctly, the way they've kind of opened up the country. I know that there's been a big COVID bump recently, but the idea that they're listening and saying, okay, well, we kind of want the company to open up, or we want the country to open up. I think that's important, and that affects not just obviously the private citizen, but the businesses as well. And I think both of these points bode well for business, for us, certainly, going forward in China.
Understood. Okay, great explanation there. And the difference between owning data and owning algorithms. Why is this so important, and why should our audience be aware of this clarification?
One, I think the first most important thing, obviously, is privacy. We receive the data that we received. It's already been vetted by China Mobile and China Unicom. So we're studying information that's in essence already been scrubbed for personal information and for anonymity. So we have access to really just demographic information. So there's that privacy aspect that we don't intrude on any private information. And secondly, it's the inability to sell the information. I always talk about the fact that, you remember back in the day when Facebook was selling information to Cambridge Analytica. That can't happen to a company like us. We don't have that raw data to sell. Again, what we do is we work with the information that we have and the algorithms that we build out to understand really demographic information and human behavior, human nature type information. And that is what is of value to the insurance companies, and down the road, maybe financial services companies, healthcare companies, and all that. So that's, I think, the basic difference between what we can do and the importance in terms of the actual data that we have access to.
Fantastic. Martin, it's been great talking with you. A final take from you here. In 10 years, how is the Chinese economy going to compare to ours? What are the differences that you see coming up here as we move into the future?
Wow. Obviously, China's coming out of, a couple of years of very slow economics and all that. But China is still, the second largest economy out there. And, there's always been reports that at some point, maybe 5, 10, and now I think maybe 15 years down the road, that they might pass the US in terms of being the largest economy in the world. They have a lot of things that they're looking to develop, but I think that there's continued strength that they have, and they'll continue to grow. The growth has been slowed a little bit, obviously, by their burgeoning middle class, some more wealth that's out there. But I still think it's such an important economy that it'll continue to be a major facet in terms of how it relates with US and the rest of the world. And I think, part of it is the rest of the world is moving too. You look at things like the Philippines and India and Thailand. These are growing economies as well, which, take away from maybe what China was able to do earlier on. But I think China will continue to be a major factor in the world, and we're just happy to be a part of it. So.
Fantastic. Martin, it's been an absolutely fascinating conversation with you here today. So much information picked up, and obviously a lot to look forward to in the future. Martin Shen, CEO of FingerMotion, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Michael. Talk to you again soon.